Nagraj Manjule is one of the best filmmakers. We have storytellers. Do you tell us how did you get a call?
It was me who made the call actually. I got to know that Nagraj Manjule is making a show in Hindi and I've been a big fan of his work.
What did he tell you about this girl that you play?
Honestly, like I said, he's a man of few words, and what he does is he really trusts you. Once he's made his decision, then he really trusts you with whatever you're doing.
I wanted to ask you, are intimate scenes hectic on a set?
They can get hectic. I don't have much experience, to be honest, but on this one we had an intimacy coach. And that was so wonderful. I didn't fully understand what an intimacy coach does before shooting.
What did you dig into this Parsi community to become this character?
Cyrus uncle, who would come and help me with a few things. He gave me a book to read about the Parsis, and then he told me some things about, history and the religion and what they do. Now you may not see these things in scenes in the show, but they do help.
Mumbai Meri Jaan and Matka King both give hope that second season can be about you.
I don't hold these hopes anymore.
I'm manifesting it.
I don't hold these hopes anymore. Because hi, I'm Kritika Kamra and you're watching this interview on Bollywood Hungama.
Kritika, welcome to Bollywood Hungama. Big congratulations on a personal note, big congratulations on a professional note.
Thank you.
Right. I watched Matka King, and I have seen you in an old Bombay show before also, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. This was very different in so many ways. So let's take you back, and he's one of the, Nagraj Manjule is one of the best filmmakers. We have storytellers. Do you tell us how did you get a call? Who called you? How did it shape?
It was me who made the call actually. I got to know that Nagraj Manjule is making a show in Hindi and I've been a big fan of his work. I remember watching Fandry at Mami many years back and now I've been working in Bombay for so long, I understand Marathi quite well. I can't speak, I'm not fluent, but I understand it completely. So when I watched the film, I think at that point I didn't fully understand Marathi, but I was so affected by the film that it stayed with me. And I made sure to find out, who the maker is, what's he about, what is he making. And then Sairat came. And everybody got to know about Nagraj Manjule. And I've also seen Jhund and his short film. So he's somebody whose work I've been watching for a while. And he was on, I guess he's on every actor's wish list in that sense.
That's true.
So when I got to know he's making something in Hindi, I said, this is my chance to be a part of it. And I was like, whatever it is, I want to be a part of it in some capacity. So I found out who's casting and what's happening and what's the show about. And luckily, the part also was really, really good. And, I thought this would be very interesting to do. Like you said, I've done a Bombay show before. So this was very different from that. And it was also, gave me an opportunity to really dress up, find new mannerisms, do a little work on my voice and things like that. And I enjoy these challenges. So also the fact that she is actively involved in the rise of the game. And starts playing it and kind of becomes the bridge between bridge and the other, society. Was very interesting to me. So I thought this is a good part and a good collaboration.
Wow, so you made it happen actually.
Yeah, I made it happen. I tested once, I tested again. Nagraj sir is one of those filmmakers who's very particular about his casting, as you can tell. And he's also worked with, in fact, he's worked with so many non-actors before. And he can really make anybody perform. So I think they were looking for a particular look and some details. So I tested once and then I got some feedback on it. I tested again. We tried things differently and it worked out and I got it.
When you've seen his films and you said at Mami and other places, we all have a perception of a filmmaker ki aise honge, waise honge. We don't know how they are. What impression of him did you have? And when you met him, what is he like?
He's a multiple national award winner. And his films are really hard-hitting. So I thought that he would be someone who's very
Serious.
serious, and I was quite nervous before meeting him, because it's like when you meet somebody you respect so much, you kind of like want to go very prepared, and want to be really disciplined, and all of us were. There is that respect that you can sense within the cast and the crew when you're working with him. That everybody kind of brings their best because he expects that, and even if he's not telling you to do something, you would still do it.
Right.
So that discipline was there, but he's a man of few words, but he's really easy. He's so soft spoken, he's so chill, has great stories to tell, has a good sense of humor even. So it was not like he's this intimidating figure. I found out on set that he's he's fun to be around.
Right. What did he tell you about this girl that you play initially when you all had conversations and you all met? What did he say he wanted?
So honestly, like I said, he's a man of few words, and what he does is he really trusts you. Once he's made his decision, then he really trusts you with whatever you're doing. So in my case, there wasn't a lot of discussion. In fact, not even with Vijay. Vijay and I also, right from the word go, we got along. There was no like awkwardness or breaking the ice or any kind of workshops. We did have table reads and we read the scenes, I think twice. And that's it. Then we just came to set in our look and everything, And I remember the first day of shoot, Vijay was in his that white avatar, and I of course had some 6 changes which took forever to do. But we would just come to set, understand what sir wanted from that scene, and then he would just roll. And each take we were trying to we would try to do new things and improvise, and whenever he thought he got what he wanted, he'd tell you that okay, this is the one that we're sticking with. So it was a really fluid process. It wasn't he really let everybody bring something. To the table.
That puts more responsibility on the actor also sometimes, because he's saying he trusts you now. Now it's up to you now. So then how do you prep for something like that? Because what was the prep behind this? Because she's wonderful. This this character that you play, you look the part. Like you said, the voice, the mannerisms. How does this take shape?
It starts with, of course, the writing, and then in this case particularly, the costume, hair, makeup, all of that played a very big role, because I had to look a certain way, and then even production design, because the world that you belong to has to be a certain way, so automatically gives you a little background of the character, the stature of the character, where she belongs and all that. So that's already done. So that definitely kudos to the team for that. And then I think I wanted to bring a little poise in how she is. I feel like she's one of those well brought up girls, maybe went to a convent school, maybe went abroad to study or something like that. Very like conservative, traditional in that sense, but also a Bombay girl. So she has a social life, and she's very comfortable with people around, and also comes from privilege and from this protected environment. So when she meets Bridge and she sees his world, that's probably the first time she's seeing how the real world is. So for her to have this sense of wonder, and we debated if we should do a Parsi dialect, but we thought that Bombay is quite cosmopolitan, and the world that she comes from, she would have interacted with a lot of people, so we didn't really do the dialect, but the Hindi and English that she speaks is slightly more rounded around the edges. It's a little like how my South Bombay friends speak, but without the slang of today.
Though she's beautiful, she's pretty. They could have made her a very girly girl, but she is such a hustler that she doesn't want to just sit back and watch. She wants to be a part of this Matka thing and run her own thing also. There's some that generation was full of hustlers.
And also not, because for a woman in 60s, I thought that was very interesting. In fact, that was the thing that pulled me to the character when I got to read about Gulrukh and the whole story. The fact that we have a perception of people who are rich and who, that people who have everything, what do they need? Why do they don't need to be ambitious. But she is. And though Bridge's journey is, starts, or whatever he starts he gets attracted to the game for survival because of his circumstances. In her case, it's more for purpose, for thrill, for freedom of a certain kind.
Correct.
And that is true even today, I think, for women.
That's true even today.
So I found that contradiction very interesting, that she is somebody who doesn't need to do this.
Correct.
But she does it because just because it thrills her.
Correct.
And then she realizes that having this restaurant, and then she also says, which is a pivotal scene where she says that this restaurant needs to be just mine.
Mine, yeah. What else? Yeah.
You know,
He makes a very strong point. Ki,
yeah.
And he's like, you know, weekend star. What's the big deal? Paise ka kya hai?
Yeah.
He's like, this, I want this.
Yeah.
That's very
So from that point onwards, she kind of, I think, from this little gullible girl, she becomes a woman because she finds that making your own choices and making your own money is a power.
Right. You know, that scene was very interesting where she makes a very strong point that this has to be you telling someone you are with that time you love. Why does she say that? Does she say that because she doesn't trust the relationship also? Ye kahan jayega? I want this, or did she want to do her own thing?
So I think it's a combination of things. Of course, these are things that we just assume. And they inform your choices as a character, or as an actor playing a character. So I think, in my opinion, I think yes, she's very aware of the fact that he is married and has a family. I think it also comes from her own past, where she has once depended on her husband, on her husband who's no more, to an extent that she didn't really imagine life without him, and now he's gone. So, you know, and she's blamed for it. So in a society, and especially in the 60s and 70s, I feel that identity for women did come from the man they were with. And I think somewhere she wanted to break that. She wanted to not depend on another man or, you know, for identity and self-worth.
Wow. You know, he's, you have to give credit to the filmmaker to make such an arc for a female character where you have this backstory and, you know, you have confrontational scenes with the mother and, you know, the in-laws and parents, right? Yeah.
In-laws,
very, very. Imagine like how many filmmakers do this. Like, you know, these scenes. If you remove this scene, it's still like it's an important scene. But this filmmaker makes sure that this girl gets her scene also.
Yeah, absolutely. Abhay Korane, who's the writer and creator, co-creator on the show, he's very good that way. You know, his sense of like, you can see his worldview in this story, even though it's a period drama. To choose to tell the story of these women, both mine and Sai's character, you know, or to portray them in this light, when you could have very well not done that because this wasn't the norm back then.
Correct.
Is a choice that a writer makes, and I mean, like I think he's done a great job with this, because when you're telling a story of this era in 2026. You're talking to women like me. Women like me are watching these characters. So we want to know about these women, you know. For very long, we've seen the traditional portrayal. And we've seen the portrayal that is relatable. But what about aspirational? Sometimes you want to also see that. Like, who were the people who made a difference? Or what was, you know, it's always interesting to read or to watch something about a rule breaker in some sense.
Correct. You know, that's what our parents' generation, I feel, in Bombay were the rule breakers. The clothes they wore, you know, the tailors they had, like, you know, the every small detail was thought after. Like, you know, you think that was survival, or that was just we will make the rules and stand out? What is your understanding?
I think Bombay has that energy. I just think that Bombay is that place where people just do what they want. There is more individualism in this city, and not so much judgment. So people just do that. And also because we have this nightlife, we have a culture that is really influenced by a lot of different cultures.
Correct.
So I think we've just found our own groove here in Bombay, and I think it's a very Bombay thing.
True, it is a Bombay thing. You know, like when I was interviewing Vijay, he was also talking about all the earlier generation parents had, women and men had their tailors. So like, you know, I remember in South Bombay, there's this stylo tailor where Amitabh Bachchan used to stitch his clothes.
I know about this.
And every man wanted to just get their shadi ka suit from stylo because Mr. Bachchan goes there.
Yeah.
And they wanted to stand out. So there's something about magical about that generation.
Yeah.
You tell me about this, the whole, what did you dig into this Parsi community to become this character? It's done wonderfully. Also, how much was on paper? Did you speak to people, meet people?
Yeah, I have a few Parsi friends, so I spoke to them. I had a coach also, Cyrus uncle, who would come and help me with a few things. He gave me a book to read about Parsis, and then he told me some things about history and the religion and what they do. Now you may not see these things in scenes in the show, but they do help because you understand what community means to them once you understand their history.
Correct.
You understand how food is such a big thing that they bond over. Even the dynamic, what is happening in the beginning of the show about like superstition or about certain traditions or about why is she considered unlucky, and then they don't want her to enter in a few places and not. I'm not saying this is exclusive to Parsis, but there are these little things about each culture that you have to kind of know, I feel. And because I'm from North India, and because I had not met any Parsis before I moved to Bombay. I've only known them as like lovely people, great fun to hang out with, great sense of humor, great food. I just know these things. But then I also got to know this other side of their history in Bombay, particularly South Bombay, and how it's influenced the Bombay that you see today. So that was very interesting, and so it was a mix of things. I watched. Not related at all, but I was trying to find a Parsi reference, and most Parsi characters you see in cinema are comical characters. But I watched Pestinji, and wonderful film, and Nasir Saab is so good in it. And I'm such a big Nasiruddin Shah fan. To watch him do that, it is the most believable dialect. He's so good, you cannot tell, and it never feels caricaturish. It just never. Of course, he's a legend. But that was I discovered the film only while trying to find Parsi things, and I'm so glad I did.
True. It's a wonderful. When you talk to your Parsi, when they are shown in movies as comical, and also because they have a sense of humor, and a lot of them are genuinely funny.
Really funny, yeah.
Like when you speak to people. Do you think we have done a fair depiction in movies or not so much?
I think we tend to, especially older films, even Punjabis for that matter, there is a certain soundtrack that will come.
Gujaratis, Punjabis,
or, so we have these stereotypes. I just like when we move away from the stereotypes and show somebody, which has happened with some actors in our show also, who you've seen in comic roles before, but here you're seeing an intense side to them, and it's so interesting to watch. Like I was saying earlier, I'm also a fan of rule breakers. I like it when you see something different about a certain community or any different portrayal of.
Right. Then comes your relationship with Vijay. It's very well written, firstly. Also, I wanted to ask you, are intimate scenes hectic on a set?
They can get hectic. I don't have much experience, to be honest. But on this one, we had an intimacy coach.
Okay.
And that was so wonderful.
Okay.
I didn't fully understand what an intimacy coach does before shooting for Matka King. And it's an important part of filmmaking. It's like having an action director or a choreographer,
for an action scene,
to do those things. Because once you realize how technical it is, you can't be awkward about it, because it genuinely is very technical. You're really just doing it for the camera. So there are lots of like tricks about how to go about it. But they are hectic in the sense that because they're not scripted really, because they're not. There's no direct description or direction to it. You just have to be in a really comfortable, safe environment and trust the people that you're working with.
So after the scene, now you understand what they do. Like, is it would you recommend an intimacy coach on?
Absolutely, 100%. And it doesn't matter how intimate or not the scene is. It really just helps if there's any kind of like physicality involved. It's really like having a choreographer, even for maybe not a song sequence but a musical part in a film. So I think it was really useful. She was amazing.
Vijay has also done a very good job. When I interviewed him, I spoke about you. When I'm interviewing you, I'm speaking about him. you all knew each other firstly from before?
Not really. We had met at like a couple of events or something. Like we'd had some run-ins, but no, not really. We never hung out.
Okay. क्या है उसके बारे में? What works according to you? You observe him as an actor also on a set.
Yeah.
What is it? Because he's also absolutely fantastic in this.
Yeah.
He's
do you absolutely observe? Fantastic in everything. That's what I knew about him before I met him. Because I'd seen him on screen and I'd seen his work, and I was like, obviously this is a really intelligent actor because you can see his work.
Correct.
And his choices, his work, everything. So the expectations were very high already as someone who's an admirer of his work. But he was also, he's really easy to work with. He has no ego. He plays for the scene and not himself. It's very easy to to take yourself too seriously, especially when you are, the Matka King in a show that's about that. You know what I mean? And also like carry that aura or something. I think the choice that he's made with this character to not make it like that, even on screen and on set and otherwise also, to be so open-minded and ready to play is a great quality.
It is a great quality.
Because ultimately that's what acting is. It's a lot of listening.
Right.
And he's very good at that. So it was fun.
True. Where does this fit in your filmography? Because you've done good
I don't know, you tell me. I have no idea. I have no perspective on how or... Like there's no roadmap really with the filmography. It's just I'm trying to pick the exciting things from what comes my way. I think it's I just like that it sits in contrast to Mumbai Meri Jaan.
Yeah, it does.
I also like the fact that it's come after the Great Shamsuddin family.
Yes,
so
oh my God, of course.
Completely different, and some new audiences are discovering me, which is new because a lot of people know me from television. So they are always, when they write to me, they always talk about some of my older parts and then what I'm doing today, which is also really sweet because they remember and because they've been, fans. But with this one, a lot of new people have also discovered me, which is good for any actor.
Yeah. Mumbai Meri Jaan and Matka King both give hope that second season can be about you.
I don't hold these hopes anymore.
I'm manifesting it.
I don't hold these hopes anymore.
Okay.
Because I was really, really, really looking forward to the second season of Mumbai Meri Jaan, especially because I'd read what was going to happen. So when you know what's going to happen, it was so good for my character.
Yeah. Because it ends with that scene. I would have really enjoyed doing that second season. That's the one that pinches me, actually.
Correct.
So are these the market forces that eventually decide what will be made or what not?
I guess everything is data driven and numbers driven. So I guess honestly, I don't even know the exact metrics because they're a bit complex. It's not just about views or whatever because Mumbai Meri Jaan got that. I don't know what it is, but I think that it's increasingly becoming difficult. Like we're not seeing so many other seasons or like multiple parts.
Correct, that's true. Yeah. Should we as fans write to Nagraj Manjule and say Matka Queen we want now?
I think we need to write to Amazon.
Yeah, we need to write to Amazon.
We write to Amazon Prime Video.
Correct.
And if there's any chance for a crossover between the two, I'd do that as well.
Wow. Amazing. On a personal front, there's a lot of development. Big congratulations.
Thank you.
I won't dig in too much into your personal life, but we saw lovely pictures of your wedding. Was it a decision that both of you all believe that everything like that's personal should be with personal people, intimate, and not an industry event?
We do actually, and of course, I mean, we also had a party, which kind of, and we have friends in the industry, so I don't know what qualifies as industry event or not, but with the wedding, even the fact that now it's everywhere and everybody's talking about it, like it wasn't intended to, like I didn't think anybody would be interested in a small wedding like this, so we were really just doing this for ourselves.
Correct.
And now it's like I keep getting love for it and it feels like everybody has seen everything because wherever I go, everyone's talking about it, so it's sweet. I like that. But yeah, those 2 days were absolutely for us, and we had a lot of fun. Everybody says you don't enjoy your own wedding. I completely disagree.
Oh, you enjoyed?
Because
Yeah.
we had a blast.
Okay.
We had a blast. We were not rushing. We were not. We didn't have any deadlines, any timings, any. You know, we were at home. It was very chill. We were surrounded by people we love. So it wasn't like, you know, we weren't just playing hosts.
Correct.
We were actually enjoying our own parties, and that's special.
Right. A lot of people tell you it's a good sports entertainment crossover. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kritika Kamra, and you're watching this interview on Bollywood Hungama.